And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the heart of the Inland Empire, right here in sunny Southern California, it's Robert Cardoza Live, where we talk about politics, money, and you. This is the intersection of business and politics. And now here's your host, Robert Cardoza.
And welcome aboard. I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza Live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. And you know what? Here we are. It's 2 days after the election. We're still around. The world hasn't come to an end. And we have got another magnificent show waiting on you today. On today's show, we're going to discuss what's in the news. New legislation, the IRS loses. And then we'll continue our segment, the tribute to the late, great Paul Harvey, and the rest of the story. Today's story is the eulogy for an owl. You're going to love that story, so you want to stay tuned, make sure you hear it. It's a fantastic story. And then we're going to have our own Sean LaFave. He'll be here. Sean and I will be talking about healthcare on the Geared for Wellness corner, and God only knows what other things we may be talking about. Generally, we talk about a lot of things. But right now at 3:01 p.m. Pacific time, I want you to know that it's 88 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, that's down from 89, so I guess it's heading the right direction. And it's on its way to 58 degrees. A little later on the show, we'll give you some of the forecasts or the temperatures, whether for our syndicated spots around the world. But right now, I want to talk to you about the 10 things that you need to know for today, Thursday. And we've abbreviated them so we can get them all in, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth after that. Here's your daily look at the late breaking news, upcoming events, and the stories that are going to be talked about all day today and probably all day tomorrow as well. Now, we are now all rooting for his success. After Trump's astonishing election triumph, Obama invites the president-elect to the White House and pledges a smooth transition of power. That's what makes America great. And the ERA, an era of unified GOP control, begins in Washington. The GOP leaders in Congress vow to run with Trump's agenda, starting with repealing Obamacare. Well, they better be careful. They better have something to replace it with before they do that. Or they're going to have 20 million people that are going to be really, really upset that never had insurance before. And what's among key takeaways from the vote? Well, Trump's overwhelming backing among whites with less than a college education partly reflects how little the economic recovery since the Great Recession has benefited them. And around the world, cheers mix with fear. You know what? Trump's remarkable win is welcomed in some countries, such as Russia, while others, it's a major shock. Well, we'll see what happens. You know what? A shock for some. Maybe it's a good shock. You know what? Why the election was 1-2 punch for many women. A huge milestone. The election of a woman as president failed to come to pass, and the winner was a man who has denigrated and been accused of even more serious mistreatment of women. And then Iran accused of violating the nuclear deal. The UN says Tehran is storing more heavy water than allowed under the agreement, meant to curb its ability to make atomic arms. Well, they better be careful because we got a new president that's just not going to put up with that stuff. He may want to use them as an example. Maybe they should be listening and straighten out, huh? How about this? Details emerge in the suspected serial slayings. 2 bodies found on the rural property of a South Carolina man, linked to 5 other deaths, were a couple who had a history of panhandling and had been buried there for nearly a year, authorities say. And the high-frequency trader pleads guilty in the flash crash. The British futures trader admits helping trigger the crash in 2010 that wiped tens of billions of dollars off the value of U.S. stocks. And what's the latest warning about vitamin B? Well, doctors say many people think that they need more pills than they really do. And finally, Brad Pitt is cleared in child services probe. An investigation into whether the actor was abusive toward his son on a private flight in September has been closed with no finding of wrongdoing. You know what? It's sort of like in campaigns. A lot of mud starts flying and not usually a lot of fact behind that. Well, you know what? I think it's time for us to get into a little bit more in-depth news here. I think that's the thing that you want and I want. We'll do as much of that as we can in the time that's allotted. You know, it's an excellent first meeting for Obama and Trump and a cordial beginning to their transfer of power. President Barack Obama and President-elect Donald Trump met at the White House today. Obama called the 90-minute meeting excellent, and his successor said he looked forward to receiving the outgoing president's counsel. At the close of the Oval Office sit-down, Obama said to Trump, "We now are going to want to do everything we can to help you succeed, because if you succeed, the country succeeds." The two men, who had been harshly critical of each other for years, were meeting for the first time, Trump said. The Republican called Obama a very good man and said he looked forward to dealing with the president in the future, including counsel. Obama blasted Trump throughout the campaign as unfit to serve as commander-in-chief. Trump spent years challenging the legitimacy of Obama's presidency, falsely suggesting Obama may have been born outside the United States. But at least publicly, the two men appeared to put aside their animosity as the meeting concluded and journalists scrambled out of the Oval Office. Obama smiled at his successor and explained the unfolding scene. Yeah, well, let's hope that things continue to go along the right way. That's what we really need to have. You know what? The 2016 results put a new focus on the Electoral College. The fact that Hillary Clinton most likely won the U.S. popular vote but won't be president has some people wondering, wait, why do we do it this way? Thank or blame the founding fathers for creating the possibility of a so-called divergent election when they set up the Electoral College. A look at how and why the U.S. selects its presidents this way, let me tell you. The origins? The Electoral College was devised at the Constitutional Convention in 1787. It was a compromise meant to strike a balance between those who wanted popular elections for president and those who wanted no public input. Alexander Hamilton wrote, "If the manner of it be not perfect, it is at least excellent." At the time, the country had just 13 states, and the founders were worried about one state exercising outsized influence, according to a white paper from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. Small states were worried that states with large populations would have extra sway. Southern states with slaves who couldn't vote worried that northern states would have a louder voice. There were concerns that people in one state wouldn't know much about candidates from the other states. The logistics of a national election were daunting. The thinking was that if candidates had to win multiple states rather than just the popular vote, they would have to attract broader support. Well, how it works? The electoral system has been tweaked over the years, but the gist endures. The president is selected by a college of 538 electors from the states. Each state gets as many electoral votes as it has members of Congress, and the District of Columbia gets 3. To be elected president, the winner must get at least half of the total plus 1, or 270 electoral votes. Most states give all their electoral votes to whichever candidate wins the state's popular vote. So while Clinton is leading Trump in votes nationwide, 47.7% to 47.5%, Trump's total in the Electoral College stands at 279, with races in Michigan, New Hampshire, and Arizona yet to be called. In the year 2000, Democrat Al Gore narrowly won the popular vote, but lost the Republican George W. Bush in the Electoral College, 271 to 266. Overall, there have been 4 such cases of divergent elections. Well, I'm going to talk to you about the pros and cons of this right after this brief message. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We'll tell you some more about the Electoral College.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, you know Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchased high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 3:13 p.m. Pacific time. It's still 88 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. You know what? We're talking about the Electoral College, and I wanted to give you the pros and cons about that. Let's talk with the pros first. You know, a lot has changed since the Electoral College system was established, making many of the original reasons for its existence outdated. The U.S. now manages to run national elections quite well. Voters nationwide have no shortage of information about candidates. Slavery no longer exists, but there are still concerns that small states and rural areas would be ignored in favor of those with bigger populations if the race hinged strictly on the popular vote. Well, here's the cons. In 1967, a commission of the American Bar Association recommended that the Electoral College system be scrapped, finding it to be archaic, undemocratic, complex, ambiguous, and dangerous. That sounds like attorney speak, doesn't it? Well, 50 years ago, or 50 years later, critics are still complaining, arguing that the system results in huge swaths of the country being ignored while candidates focus on a dozen or so battleground states. It's a terrible system, says George C. Edwards III, a Texas A&M professor who's written a book on the subject. Edwards tracks every campaign stop by the major candidates, and he says big states that are sure to vote for one candidate or another, say California for the Democrats or Texas for the Republicans, now get completely ignored, and small states largely get overlooked too. Is the change afoot? Well, don't count on it. Republicans have benefited the most from the system in recent years, and they're in control of the Congress. However, there is an effort underway to get around the winner-take-all aspects of the system without abolishing the Electoral College. A group called National Popular Vote is pushing an interstate compact under which states would pledge to deliver all of their electoral votes to the nationwide winner of the popular vote. Over the past decade, 11 states have approved such a bill. John Cardoza, chairman of the group, is quick to point out that both Trump and Clinton are on record in recent years saying the system is flawed. He's hopeful Trump's election won't make Republicans less amenable to changing it. We're talking about a policy that change that's largely dictated by the need to create a 50-state campaign for president instead of a 12-state campaign for president, says Cardoza. Well, now there's a lot of problems going on, but you have to be a little wary about any changes that actually would take place. So you want to be careful about these things. Well, how about this? Trump bucks protocol on press access. You know what? And tell me that they don't have it coming to him when you think about the way he was treated. President-elect Donald Trump is keeping America in the dark about his earliest conversations and decisions about his incoming government, and bucking a long-standing practice intended to ensure the public has a watchful eye on the nation's new leader. Trump today refused to allow journalists to travel with him, to his first historic meeting with President Barack Obama and congressional leaders. The Republicans' top advisors rebuffed news organizations' request for a small pool of journalists to trail Trump as he attended meetings in Washington. The decision was part of an opaque pattern in Trump's first move since his victory on Tuesday. Trump was largely out of sight on Wednesday. His aides said that he was huddled with advisors in his offices in New York. His team has not yet put out a daily schedule or offered any detailed updates on how he has spent his time. They've not acknowledged phone calls or other contact with world leaders. When Russian President Vladimir Putin sent a congratulatory telegram to Trump on Wednesday, Trump spread the word. A phone call with British Prime Minister Theresa May was announced in London. The pattern was repeated for calls with leaders of Israel, Egypt, South Korea, and Australia. The White House typically releases statements on the president's phone calls with foreign leaders, providing some details about the conversation. Past presidents-elect have had early briefings with journalists, even in confusing first hours, after the election day. But early signs suggest Trump is willing to break protocol when it comes to press access and transparency. As a candidate, Trump rallied against the press as disgusting and dishonest. He refused to allow a pool of campaign reporters and photographers to fly on his plane to events, sometimes starting his rallies before the press corps actually arrived. The practice did not extend to his running mate, Mike Pence, who was followed by a traditional pool of journalists. News organizations had tried for weeks to coordinate a pool of journalists to travel with Trump immediately after Election Day if he won. But his campaign did not cooperate with those requests, and his senior advisors refused the day after the election to discuss any such press arrangements. The Associated Press is among those reaching out to Trump advisors about press access. The White House Correspondents Association, which coordinates press pools and advocates for transparency in the White House, urged Trump to shift course. This decision could leave Americans blind about his whereabouts and well-being in the event of national crisis, said Jeff Mason, White House correspondent for Reuters and the group's president. Not allowing a pool of journalists to travel with and cover the next president of the United States is unacceptable. Trump's meeting with Obama in the Oval Office was recorded by the pool of White House reporters, photographers, and TV journalists who cover the president. Every president and president-elect in recent memory has traveled with a pool of journalists when they leave the White House grounds. You know what? We need to have some kind of transparency, but I certainly understand the animosity that Trump has, considering the fact that the press was trying to control this election and was totally against him. Now, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to deal with a little lighthearted stuff. We're going to talk about the IRS losers. We're going to put a smile on your face. That's what we need to do. We'll be right back, so don't go away.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful and visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make the interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Gentle Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39. A complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 3:23 p.m. Pacific time. Still 88 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire. That hasn't moved at all. But if you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in New York City, well, it's 55 degrees and it is clear. And if you're in Chicago, Illinois, it's 60 degrees and it's clear. Well, you know what? When we come back after our next break, we'll get out of the United States and get into some of these foreign countries, tell you what's happening there. But right now, I want to talk to you about the IRS loses. And the first case up is lien rights are lost during a temporary lapse. Now, let me tell you about it. The IRS placed a lien on investment real estate owned by a person who owed back taxes. Now, later, after negotiations over the tax bill, the IRS released the lien. A friend of the property owner then made a loan to him of $117,000 that was secured by the real estate, believing the tax claim had been settled. But soon after, the IRS revoked its release of its lien and refiled it at the courthouse. The lender sought a court ruling that her lien received priority. The IRS answered that it had filed its lien first. They went to court. This is what the judge said. The lender obtained her secured interest in the property with no notice of the tax lien because it had been released at the time. So her lien, gets a priority. Isn't that the way it should be? You better believe it. How about this? The IRS loses. Tax papers remain confidential even after being shown to an outside auditor. Now, here's the deal. While examining a company's taxes, the IRS issued a summons to the company's outside accountants who had audited it, demanding that they give over tax work papers of the companies that they actually held. Now, the company argued that the work papers were privileged against the IRS because they were prepared with its lawyers in anticipation of litigation against the IRS. Now, the IRS replied that the confidentiality for the papers was lost when they were provided to the outside accountants. They went to court, is what the judge said. The papers were given to the accountants under a written confidentiality agreement. So they remained privileged against the IRS. You know, the IRS, they keep trying to put the screws to you. And I don't know why they do it, but they just keep trying it. Listen, you've heard me talk about being a fly on the wall when the IRS is doing stuff. That's where we're at right now with this segment that we call Inside the IRS. It's a little bit like the Twilight Zone. Okay, so these are not actual tax court cases. These are just kind of precedents, things that the IRS is concentrating on, things that you want to know about that can affect anything that you may be doing or thinking about doing. And so we kind of give it to you, but, just know that they're not a precedent. It's information, and information is worth a great deal these days. First of all, let's talk about using an offshore bank. Individuals who want to maintain offshore bank accounts, the existence of which must generally be disclosed to the IRS on an annual basis, should keep in mind that the IRS can summons the bank to obtain copies of account holders' statements reflecting deposits and withdrawals. Now, there is an exception to this, though. If the offshore bank does not maintain an office in the United States, a motion to quash that summons should be successful. Now, the IRS can enforce a summons in the U.S. District Court only if it can show that the summoned person or entity resides or is found in the court's geographical jurisdiction. So your best bet? Select an offshore bank with no branch office or business connection, such as an investment banking operation in the United States. That's you know what? That's the deal. How about this? When you try to tell the IRS, heads I win, tails you lose. Yeah, sure. Well, you know what? The courts have held that taxpayers must be guided by a duty of consistency when it comes to taking tax possessions concerning the same economic matter at different times. Now, here's an example for you. The court determined in Conrad Janus that an estate could not that a state could not take one position with respect to the value of its assets when it suited the estate's tax purposes, and in this case, using a lower discounted value of the gallery of artwork, and then take a contrary position when that suited the estate's purposes, and in this case, using a higher fair market value when the artwork was later sold by the beneficiary. So the bottom line, you cannot unfairly beat the IRS with its own rules and regulations. You know what? Always, don't ever try to do this stuff on your own. Always get a competent, licensed professional to help you. They're going to save you more money than they ever cost you, and they're going to give you some peace of mind at the same time. One of their conditions of them having their licensing is that they have what they call errors and omissions insurance, which means that if they make a mistake, they pay the piper. That alone should let you sleep well at night. You may not like the advice, but it'll be accurate advice that will not get you in trouble. Matter of fact, it'll keep you out of trouble. So keep that in mind. Now, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be with my good buddy Sean LaFave in his Geared for Wellness Corner. So don't go away. We'll be right back with Sean right after these brief messages.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, you know Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchase high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from his personal meditation lounge in Orange County, California, a professional dedicated to conquering many chronic conditions from autism to weight loss and everything in between. The nationally recognized wellness coach, consultant, and lecturer, Sean Lefebvre, in his Geared for Wellness Corner.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza Live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. And yeah, Sean, I still haven't been hit by an oncoming truck yet, but at 3:33 p.m. Pacific time, it's currently 88 degrees. Hasn't moved an inch in the last half hour here in the heart of the Inland Empire in Southern California. It's on its way down to 58 degrees. And if you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in Paris, France, well, it's currently 45 degrees with scattered clouds. And if you're in Rome, Italy, it's 50 degrees and it's clear. And if you're in either one of those places, God, I'm glad you're listening to me, but you know what? It's 12:30 in the morning, tomorrow morning there. You got to get some sleep. You can, if you have my app, you could actually listen to this show after you wake up in the morning. Anyway, talking about waking up, you're about to wake up because there's going to be information undoubtedly that you're not going to believe coming from my co-host, Sean Lefebvre. Hey, Sean, you sitting out there somewhere?
I am sitting out here somewhere. You know, and the funny thing is, you know, talking about being out in the intersection, if you were out in the intersection today, everyone would just assume that you were protesting the Trump presidency. So it's a pretty normal thing these days to be standing out in the intersection. This is a warm, sunny day.
You are absolutely right. You know what? It's sad. I don't know if we want to talk about politics today or not, but it is a sad thing when you think about it. Unfortunately, half the country is disappointed and half the country is elated. The half country that's elated that elected Trump really believes that the government and the country is in dire straits, and that the people have been left behind, and things are worse, and they see us just hemorrhaging out here. And the election of Trump was their way of saying, we need one. This is a wake-up call to Washington, D.C., and the government to say, we need to be represented properly. Those people are absolutely hurting. Now, the other people, they're just absolutely scared. They don't know what's going on and what's going to happen. But the truth is this is a fantastic country, no matter who's in the White House. This country is going to be just fine. And right now, with the knowledge that Iran is not maintaining the agreement that we had for this nuclear proliferation going on. You know what? They better be careful, because when President Trump gets into office, he's not going to put up with that kind of crap, I don't think. And I don't think we need to. We need to get respect back for this country. Now, having said that on my soapbox, my friend, the microphone is yours. We can talk about anything you want. Oh, I do want to ask you about, if you have a comment, that's fine. Other than that, I've got a question I want to ask you.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm shocked beyond any belief that Iran would go against their word. I mean, who would have ever predicted? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, so let's I think we need to do a talk on the mental health, because the state of mental health in this country, I'm convinced at this point is not well, especially these millennials or whatever these 20. Well,
yeah, but you know what you're talking about. You know, unfortunately, here's what I really think. Unfortunately, millennials, and I really believe this. And first of all, I have to tell you, I'm a Trump supporter. So anything that I have to say is just where my mind and my heart and my logic is. Whether that be misstated or not, then that's something else again. But the truth is I've looked at millennials as and excuse me, I don't mean to offend anybody, but millennials as being a group of people that feel they're owed something without necessarily having to work for it and just have it handed to them. And I don't even know that they did their homework when they were actually studying the positions, whether it be the other items on the ballots, the amendments that are on the ballots, or even if it was the legislators themselves. And I don't even know that they knew or really understood the difference between Hillary Clinton and the continuation of the 8 years of the Obama policies, or Donald Trump, which was his job is to go out there and clean house in the government and try and get us straightened out. And the truth is, when you talk about mental health, I think that there are this group of people that are just legitimately scared to death, and a lot of those people would have been scared of any kind of change.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an irrational fear, and I would agree with you. Probably the majority of them didn't do their homework. They really don't know the difference between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, other than what they see on Facebook. And the sad truth and the reality of this is what you get when you raise an entire generation where everybody gets a trophy whether you win or lose.
Yeah.
And they don't get their trophy this round, and so they're all crying, like literally like little toddlers. They're throwing tantrums. College professors saying you don't have to take your midterm. They're bringing in puppies and cuddle dogs for these children, and they're giving them hot children. I'm calling them children because they're sure not grown up. If they're crying like little babies, they're not grown up. I don't care if they're 20 years old or not. And they're giving them hot chocolate, literally giving them crayons and coloring books and Play-Doh to help soothe their emotions.
Yeah.
These are people who 60 years ago, whenever it was, it's actually 70 plus years ago now, we're at that same age, we're dying on beaches in other countries.
Yeah.
And they
spilling their blood
into a stream of bullets.
Yeah, spilling their blood so we could have the freedom to do what we're doing now. Sean, one of the things that I find really interesting, and I know you probably have it, and I just remember that I have a question to ask you.
You still got to ask your question. I'm ready for you.
But I'm not ready yet. One of the things that I noticed today too, the media is in an uproar now, and you know what? And I don't have any compassion for them at all, because they were trying to make sure that Hillary Clinton got elected in opposition to what actually took place, and they were castigating Trump every time they could, and then Trump started giving it back to him. Well, today when he had his meeting with Obama and with the Speaker of the House. The press wanted to attach a pool of reporters to Trump to follow him around, and Trump said, no, you're not going to do that. Now, the reporters that were in the White House were there because the White House provides that, but it looks to me like Trump is going to say to them, hey, look, the way you treated me was unfair, unjust. Matter of fact, it was criminal, and the way you tried to manipulate this election was criminal, and you shouldn't get a free ticket on this thing, and as president, I'm not going to pardon you.
Good. Yeah. And I think that's the way he should treat them, because they, I remember over a year ago, I don't remember what show it was on, talk show, Ann Coulter, who's great, of course, a great author, and a very conservative woman, and I think very intelligent.
Yeah, but she is a half a bubble off level.
Well, yeah, so she definitely goes off half. That's fine, but I still like her.
I understand. You're a lonely man. Let's just face it. You're a lonely man. Sally is all the way in Kansas, and you're all the way in California. You're just a lonely man. And you know what they say? I sent you that song. You never even acknowledged it. I sent it to you in an email. I bet you didn't even open it, did you?
I don't even remember getting it.
Yeah, I sent it to you a couple days ago. The girls all get prettier at closing time.
Oh, and that's true, they do. but no, Ann Coulter, this was over a year ago, when there was still 15 or 16 guys running for Republican, and they asked her, they said, who do you think right now of the pool we've got is the one that would have the best chance of actually winning the presidency? And without batting an eyelash, she said Donald Trump. I remember watching it, and they laughed at her. They said, "Are you kidding?" And she said, "No," and she justified it, and they went, "No way, you're out of your mind." So the media has been against him intentionally. Whether they believed he could win or not, they were intentionally against. So I don't blame him for not letting them follow him around.
Oh, I don't either. You know what? I mean, maybe it is not the professional thing to do. I'm not saying that it's not, but if it were me, I'd have done the same damn thing. I'd say, you know what? You did not even try to be fair with me. Why would you expect me to be fair with you now?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. I just posted. It's funny. I posted something on Facebook that I thought would get like maybe a couple of comments and like maybe a handful of likes. It was just kind of a thought that came to mind. But I've actually had like 4 or 5 people share this post that I made, and I've had a ton of comments, and they've been all over the map. Everything from kind of a offhanded inappropriate joke to people being very offended to people going, yes, absolutely, this is the problem. But all I said was, I wish that the media, and it really I wasn't talking about the protesters. I wasn't directing this to the protesters. I was directing it at the media. And I said, I wish the media would call these protests what they really are, because they're not anti-Trump protests. They're anti-democracy and anti-fellow citizen protests. Because Trump didn't appoint himself. He was elected by we the people in a legal due process. He didn't develop the electorate, so he lost the popular vote, which they say may actually change. But regardless, how he got in was fair.
Well, yeah. Now, here's the thing: protest is something. But protest is something that we need to recognize as being a right under the the right of free assembly. We have to understand that. And all the protests that took place all over this country, protests to Donald Trump, they were all peaceable. They were all peaceful. There was no.
Well, there's been one. I think San Francisco. I think got just recently here.
I didn't know that.
I think maybe it's anyway. But that wasn't my point. That wasn't the point that I was making, and that's where everybody else took it too. I went, protesters have the rights, and I said I didn't say they didn't have rights. I said I wish the media, and I said the very first noun that I used was media. The media, and I said all they're doing is there's every headline on the newspapers, on Facebook, on the internet, on all these. This anti-Trump protest, anti-Trump this, anti-Trump rally, anti-Trump. I said, we keep throwing the word anti-Trump in everybody's face. Nobody's ever going to get over being anti-Trump. We've got to stop saying anti-Trump, because this is not what it's about. They're mad, and they're directing it at Trump. But what they're really mad about is that they lost the game. They played and lost, and they're mad that the democracy didn't give them what they wanted.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Protesting is the democratic process. The fact that Sean Lefebvre didn't play the game so that they could win. You know.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. You're absolutely right. And that's exactly what it is. They're not mad at Donald Trump. They're mad that they lost the game here. The truth is there's a lot of things that are going to take place in the next, well, I was going to say next 100 days, but it'll be 72 days before he takes office. But that first 100 days, you're going to see a lot of changes. One of the ones that, I mean, he's going to have to be tremendously careful and cautious. He can't just go off half-cocked here. You know, when he reverses Obamacare, he had better have something attached to that bill that replaces it, because you can't just take 20 million people and say you're no longer insured.
Yeah, sure. Well, why not? Obama did it.
Well, no, because he's not Obama. That's why.
Obama did it already.
But he's not Obama. He's not Obama. Obama insured them. These people are accustomed to having insurance now, even though you and I are paying for it. He's not Obama. He's Donald Trump, and he's got to be fair to everyone. And if he's going to get rid of what is a ridiculous health care law, he needs to attach a replacement that makes sense right to it. And I think he already has one in place there. But you know what? I'm done casting. He and Ben Carson are going to come out with that. Yeah, but I'm done with castigating Obama. Obama's gone. He's got 72 days left in office. I want to be supportive of Donald Trump now. I want to stop bad mouthing Obama. His time is up. I want to start doing things that are in support of Donald Trump. I want to look for that light at the end of I want to look for the rainbow. At the
and that was the point I was trying to make with that Facebook post, is stop with the anti-Trump rhetoric. It's done. You're not going to change it. You're not going to get Clinton in place instead. You're going to be stuck with Trump, and all you're going to have is a president that everybody hates and a country that's more divided. Stop with the anti-Trump rhetoric. I know that you're not happy and you're going to cry. That's fine. Keep crying. Go home and cry, but don't go out in the middle of the street and cry. You know, don't block someone's traffic. You know, go cry at home.
I'm looking forward to the shock that most people are going to get when they find out how effective Donald Trump is going to be. He's going to be effective for a number of reasons. One, even his own party is afraid of him, and they're trying to get together with him. And now all of a sudden, he is the chief executive of not only the country but of the Republican Party, and he's got control of the House of Representatives. He's got control of the Senate. He's got control of the House, and he's going to have a majority control in the Supreme Court. If anybody can affect
a majority of governors, we have a majority of governors.
Yeah, but if ever there was a chance,
never has it been like this since 1928.
If ever there was a chance to affect change, this is it. If he can't pull off the things that he says he's going to do, he won't get a second 4 years.
I totally agree. And I believe, give it 2 years. In 2 years, people who hate him right now are going to go, wow, you know what? He's a good president.
What'd they say about Reagan? You and I talked about this. You brought it up yesterday, as a matter of fact. Yeah. What did they say about Ronald Reagan? You know, and I remember people saying, you know, it was an actor that killed Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was exactly. It was an actor that killed Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, and they hated him. They said that he wasn't fit to run the country. Yeah, that he was an outsider. That he was, that he wasn't a real Republican. That he was actually more a Democrat, but just running on the Republican.
They said all the same things about Reagan that they're saying about Trump, and Reagan has been sainted by the GOP.
Yeah, even most of my Democrat friends.
Mm-hmm. Recognize that.
I got some my thoughts. Even my Democrat friends recognize that Reagan was a good president. I know a very small handful of people who don't like Reagan, but it's not many. Most people know will look back and know Reagan was awesome.
I can tell you that while I was in business, during the 8 years of Reagan and the 8 years of Clinton, those were the best 16 years of my business. You know, Clinton was a Democrat, but he worked with Tip O'Neill. Reagan, no, I take it back. He worked with Gingrich, and Reagan worked with Tip O'Neill. They got things done that were good for the economy and good for business, regardless of what you want to say about them. Boy, those are the best 16 years of my business.
I bet. No, Clinton wasn't a bad president, and obviously the Clintons in general are just completely unethical.
I mean, he had some moral issues, but as far as being a president, I thought he did a good job.
he did a fine job. So what's your question?
Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, there's a big deal in the news today about vitamin D, and all of a sudden doctors are saying that perhaps they've been over-prescribing vitamin D for bone density and things like that. It creates a lot of concern when you get to be my age and they just arbitrarily tell you need to be taking a couple of 1,000 milligrams of vitamin D a day, and you got to take this other stuff that you got to take for your bone density. And now all of a sudden they're saying, well, gee, maybe we made a mistake. What's your position on this if you have one?
Well, the chances are that in reality they probably have been over prescribing it if it's coming from a medical doctor who doesn't know what he's doing. And most medical doctors, unfortunately, when it comes to vitamin D, have no clue what they're doing. And there's two reasons that you can't just give vitamin D.
Is it going to be harmful if they've got me taking all this stuff? Am I harming myself?
Nope, because your body's not absorbing it. So you're just making expensive urine at that point. They're paid for by your insurance company probably.
Oh, so they're pissing me off is what's happening.
Is exactly what they're doing. And so it's got to be, the vitamin D needs to be specifically vitamin D3. It needs to be the right kind. Most people get that. That's usually not a problem. But really, for it to be bioavailable, you need to blend it with vitamin A and vitamin K2, which are both also fat-soluble vitamins. So there needs to be that. But the other problem is they find that certain inflammatory responses, certain toxicity issues, create a blockage of the vitamin D receptors.
Okay, so hang on a second, because are you relating toxicity to the super or the mega doses of the vitamin D, or you're going in a different direction? Are you saying that the mega doses of vitamin D create a toxicity?
No, they don't. It's toxicity from other things, blood toxicity, glyphosate, all these different things. And what happens is the toxicity in our body prevents us from absorbing the vitamin D. So you take they test your vitamin D, and I've seen it in several times. You test a person, they're super low on vitamin D, you give them a bunch of vitamin D, they take it as they're supposed to, and you test them again and they're still low, and you're scratching your head going, man, this person's got a lot of vitamin D, why isn't it working? Well, when a person is really toxic, what we find is they don't absorb vitamin D very well. And so what you've got to do is you've got to cleanse the body. You've got to, and because everything runs through the liver, it runs through it's got to go through, the cell membrane.
So does everything run through? I mean, even the vitamin, does everything run through the liver, or does some things bypass the liver?
Yeah, the liver. Yeah, your body has to, conjugate things. It has to break things down and convert them into, useful metabolites, if you will. You have an enzymatic action in the liver that converts things over, and so when you eat something or you take a pill for a vitamin or whatever, even a chemical like a drug. The reason why people, they go, there's all these side effects to all these drugs. There's something the drug itself actually creates the side effect. That's not the problem. If the drug can just stay in the bloodstream and not go through the liver, you actually wouldn't get all those side effects. The problem is it's the liver attacks it with it does what it's supposed to do. It chemically alters it, and it creates this whole new drug, if you will.
Well, let me ask you this for a second while I'm thinking about it, because I'm old. I forget from 1 minute to the next. I forgot this morning already. But you're saying that when you take these things orally, they do get processed and sifted through the liver. But if you get an injection of vitamin D, it goes right into your blood system. Does it bypass your liver?
No. All your blood has to be filtered through the liver.
Okay, so your blood goes through the liver as well as the enzymes from your food, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to get this. The liver is all your blood gets filtered through the liver and through the kidneys.
Okay, so let me ask you this: I swallow a bite of sandwich. It goes down my esophagus into my stomach, from my stomach into my colon. When does it get to my liver?
It goes from your stomach, which kind of churns it up, kind of juices it, if you will, breaks it down.
Goes into the large intestine.
And then it goes into the small intestine after that.
Right.
And then from there it goes into the colon or the large intestine. And from there it actually gets absorbed into bloodstream, and then it will go through the liver.
So so everything, all the good stuff and the bad stuff, everything is kind of usurped out of what that bite of sandwich, and what's left is just is waste product, and the rest of it has been absorbed into my body and is about ready to be channeled through my liver. Is that it?
Right, exactly. So yeah, if it's a waste product, the liver is going to dump it back into the gut, and you basically poop it out. It could actually, that's part of the problem with toxicity. These things get dumped into the gut, and then they go back through the intestines and they reabsorb into the large intestines. They're actually being pulled in usually by bile, which is the body naturally reabsorbs, and so you get this what they call the hepatic biliary sludge, and it's basically just this loop of toxicity. And of course, waste product sounded an awful lot better than sludge. So hepatic biliary waste products, but the hepatic biliary system will just keep looping around. But of course, you also have your blood also filters to your kidneys, and the kidneys will pull out the toxins, and that's where you urine or you excrete it through urine. So it depends on the process, but yeah, it's the thing with taking these, whether it's a vitamin or food or whatever, everything has to go through the liver.
So it goes through the liver even before it gets to the kidney.
Yeah, I would say yes on that one. Yeah, but it would have to, because it's got to be processed with the proper enzymes. Yeah, exactly.
This is quite a machine that we're maintaining here, huh?
Yeah, the human body is pretty amazing. It's the more you learn about it, it's absolutely incredible to think how complex the human system. We're just talking about one system. I mean, think about blood. Just blood alone. It helps warm you up. It helps cool you down. It helps transport.
And there's really not that much. And there's really not that much of it in your body when you think about it.
No, yeah. There's not a lot. No, 2 quarts. And it transports nutrition, it transports waste products, it gives you oxygen, it takes away carbon dioxide. It's got all these things that it has to do. It carries your immune system. I mean, all these different things in your blood. The blood itself is extremely complicated. There's no way that human beings will ever, in my opinion, create a fluid system that can do all of the things that the human blood system, the human vascular system can do. It's pretty intense.
Okay, so listen, we've got 30 seconds before we have to take a break. Do you want to talk for 30 seconds, or you want to just go to a break and talk when we come back?
Oh, we can just go to a break and talk when we come back. We can keep on the same topic, talk a little bit more about vitamin D or whatever, or we can go on to another question.
All right, we'll be right back with our own Sean LaFave in the Geared for Wellness Corner right after these brief messages. Do not go away, because if you do, I can guarantee you one thing: you're going to miss something that you wish you hadn't. We'll be right back.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this: the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchase high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4 p.m. Pacific time. You already know what the temperature is here. It hasn't changed. If you're listening to this show, you know that it's 88 degrees and it's on its way down to 59 degrees. But if you're not listening to the show, shame on you. You should be listening to it all the time. If you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in London, England, well, it's 46 degrees and it's overcast. And if you're in Vienna, Austria, it's 39 degrees, getting cold and mostly cloudy. But you know what? If you're just really homesick for that soft little squeeze of yours, I can tell you that in Wichita, Kansas, it's 65 degrees and partly cloudy. Probably a little humid, too. We're talking to our own Sean LaFave in the Geared for Wellness Corner. Hey, Sean, what's happening?
Well, it's 84 and sunny here. I can tell you that much.
It's what?
So it's 84 and sunny.
Yeah, and you got an ocean breeze coming in, right?
And we've got an ocean breeze and an air conditioner going, so I got both of them at the same time. Of course, I can only feel one of them at the same time, but
you know, it's interesting that the first time that Marnie and I went to Europe and we'd rented a car and we were there for 8 weeks and with another couple that we were traveling with, and so we rented the car and we wanted to make sure that we had air conditioning right in that car because we were going to be there in May and June, and we wanted to make sure we were comfortable. So we get into the car, and the first thing we find out is that you need to be careful about what you ask for, because when we wanted air conditioning, that's nothing more than a vent that brings the outside air in. If you want refrigeration, you need to ask for refrigeration.
A refrigerator car. All right, I'll remember that.
So listen. So anything new and exciting in the healthcare business? You know, I keep wondering what is happening. You know, when the day after Trump was elected, yesterday actually, the stock market just really took a dump. It was really, they were worried about futures and stuff. But today it ended in its highest. The Dow Jones ended its highest in history.
Right, exactly, and that right there alone tells me, you know what? Everything's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
That's probably the best indicator you can come up with. That tells you everything. If it tanked and then it took a long time to recover, well, then we would probably we might have a problem here. But for it to tank initially, because people, again, like you said, nobody likes change. It was change. It could be that some people pulled out, because they were upset, but then they realized, it's stupid, and then got back in. All of a sudden, bam, the Dow is now, it ended today at, like you said, at its record high, the highest it's ever closed.
Yeah.
And that should tell us something very profound, and that is that those who have the money in this country are going, you know what, this country is going to be just fine, and we're not going to have a problem with Trump as a president. Economically, we're going to do well.
Yeah.
So So,
Well, here's some news for you. Medicare premiums are going to rise modestly for most beneficiaries. It's going to go to $109 a month. It was at I think it was 104 or 107. I don't remember, but $109 a month. But when you start thinking about it, I had read something. Matter of fact, let's see if I can find it. I had read something about Medicare earlier. Oh, I know what it was. These tests that they were taking for vitamin D deficiencies. It cost $40 to take that test, and over 8.4 million people have to take that test on an annual basis. That's $336 million a year that we spend on the vitamin D deficiency test.
Yeah. And then that's just a test. I mean, like they said, they've been overprescribing, and so who knows how many millions of dollars we're spending on the prescription vitamin D that probably isn't really doing any good.
Well, yeah, but if they're spending that on that test, what on earth? What other useless tests are they charging us for?
Oh yeah, the list is very long. I'm sure. Yeah, there's all kinds of tests out there that they when you go to the hospital nowadays, they run every test on you they can because they're so afraid of missing something that they're going to get sued.
Yeah,
and so they overdo. That's unfortunately the problem with our medical system is we have this litigious society that if you misdiagnose somebody or you don't give them 100% of what they should have gotten, somehow something falls through the cracks. The first knee-jerk reaction is to sue. And so what they do is they go, well, I remember sitting at Starbucks. I used to hang out at Starbucks. I lived in Wichita a lot. It was just kind of like this. I'd go there and I'd read. And there was this friend of mine. The guy was a doctor, and he's a cardiologist and a nice guy. And we'd sit and talk, and we had some great conversations. And he was reading some articles. I was there. I just walked in. He was there. He was just sitting there kind of reading through some articles. And he had stepped one down. I said, do you mind if I read? He said, no, please go ahead. And the article was all about the legalities of testing in emergency room for a person who comes in with a potential cardiac problem or, experiencing chest pain or any type of symptom that could be associated with a cardiological.
If you go in the hospital and you tell them you've got chest pains, man, I'll tell you what, there's no waiting. There's no nothing. They take you in there right now just to make sure it's not your heart.
Right. The last thing they want to do is have you have a heart attack while you're waiting, and then you're going to sue them. But this article was very clear about, even if you don't think the test is needed, you should run it anyway, because the last thing you want to do is not run a test that, and there was something like one of the tests was like, only less than 2% of the people that come in are going to need this test, but you should run it on everybody, because if you miss it on that one person, it could be devastating in the amount of you're paying out in a lawsuit. So it's just incredible the amount of spending in our country on healthcare. We talk about, we're the supposed greatest country in the world, and we've got the most advanced health.
Whoa! What do you mean? What do you mean supposedly the greatest country in the world?
Well, we are in some aspects, but we're not in other aspects. We have the highest infant mortality rate. We're one of only 8 countries in the world that has a rising mortality rate for maternal mortality. So the mom dies either during pregnancy or birth. Only 8 countries in the whole world is that number on the rise, and we're one of them, and the rest are all third world countries.
It's interesting you would talk about births like that. There was a study, a surprising study, that finds it possible that the culprit in preterm births, the reason for it, is a calcium buildup in the womb. That just came out today.
I can believe that. Yeah, that would. Yeah, absolutely. Calcium is such a problem with.
But I thought, don't they prescribe extra calcium for pregnant women because of it's denuded? No, I guess it's iron they prescribe, not calcium, huh?
No, they'll give them calcium too, because a lot of women become calcium deficient. And here's another problem with calcium. I talk about lead toxicity a lot, and everybody has toxicity, has lead toxicity. It's just, I could test 1,000 people in this country, and I'd be surprised if one of them didn't have lead toxicity. But lead has an affinity for bone. It likes storing itself in the bone tissue, which is nice and safe there. It doesn't really hurt much of anything. But when a woman is pregnant, they tend to become calcium deficient, And so the body pulls calcium from the bones to deposit into the baby. And of course it gets in the womb, like you say, there's a calcium buildup in the womb. And the problem is it doesn't pull just calcium, it pulls that lead out along with it. And so now it could be that it's not just the calcium buildup, it could be the lead associated with that calcium. So if they say, hey, there's a calcium issue causing premature births, well, it could also be that there's the lead being pulled and maybe they just haven't put that connection together. That would be my first gut instinct would tell me I would look for lead as well, because it's a big problem. But yeah, we have, our quality of life is way down low on the list for, developed countries. Our standard of living as far as our health goes, is on par with countries like Croatia. We really don't have this great standard of living when it comes to, we have expensive toys, but when it comes to actually quality of life, like how good I feel, how healthy I am, how happy I am, we rank way down there, So to say that we're the greatest country on the planet is really a bogus statement. We've got a lot of great things about us, but there's a lot of things that we really need to change in our healthcare system is one of them. And it's just like we were talking about, all this frivolous spending. We spend more than on healthcare than any other country in the world per capita, not just gross spending, but per capita. Far more. I think Canada is second, and we spend like thousands more per person than they do. I haven't looked at the numbers for a few years, but it's astronomical, and and that's not changing. And the problem is our health isn't getting any better. People are on more drugs. They're getting fatter. They're getting sicker. They're having more
so what is the answer to that? Because we chase around symptoms and not causes, because we allow innovation in medical science and drug research to go beyond the rational costs. What is the reason that the United States is lacking? Is it lacking because the individuals, the average person in the United States just can't afford that health care, can't afford those prescriptions? They decide, if I want to leave anything to my family, I can't take that drug. I'm just going to have to die so I can leave something to my family. What's the reason for all of this?
The reason is because we eat garbage. It's pretty simple.
Because we eat garbage. It's not because of the cost of the quality medical care.
You don't need health care if you're a healthy person, and you can be a healthy person.
But you're not saying that everybody that eats right is going to be a healthy person. There are some catastrophic things that happen to people, regardless. Sure. Jack LaLanne, he died from heart failure. Of course, he was 89 years old, but
he was 89 years old, and look at the things. Your heart is only going to beat. He lived.
Oh, I was just kidding when I was talking about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, but still, even at 89, I would say, a guy who's healthy should live past 100 years old. And I think Jack LaLanne at 89, I honestly was thinking, he really wasn't that old considering how healthy he was.
Well, but there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people that exercise. They take good care of themselves. They don't, they watch their diets and all that stuff, and they still become ill. So it's not just diet. You can't say it's just diet.
Well, it's primarily diet and lifestyle. You're obviously the law of averages are going to get you no matter what. But all things being equal, you're better off, having some vegetables.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
And some healthy cuts of meat and whatever some spaghetti squash, whatever, as opposed to going out and having McDonald's for dinner.
And you can't argue with that. I agree with that. The point I was trying to make is that diet is not the solitary answer. It is one of the major answers, but there are catastrophic things that happen to people that are beyond diet.
Yeah, and it's. I think it's the major. There are. Yeah, anyone can. There's. Look at. What was it? Billy Graham's wife. I can't think of her name. Ruth Graham. Ruth Graham. She died a horrible death. She was bedridden for the last, I think, few months and was really ill for the last few years. And she died. I think this was probably about 9 or 10 years ago. But what happened was they associated her decline in health to a fall that she had. She was actually fixing I think it was a swing in the kid's tree or something like that, or a kid swinging a tree, and she fell out. And they said the damage that she did to her spine was what basically caused a slow degenerative process of her body to where her health just kept continuously failing. So yeah, you can't eat enough vegetables to overcome, some sort of trauma like that. But all things being equal, you're out exercising like you walk. Your health would be very different if you sat on the couch and watched TV instead of going out for a walk every day.
Oh yeah,
I guarantee it. There's just and there are people who smoke and live to be 100 years old. There are people who eat, pork chop sandwiches and
because metaphysically they're all different, right?
Yeah. So there are some people that break the stereotype, but on average, those who take care of themselves, who eat food, what most studies are finding, or research or, whatever, when you look at, and I don't even call them studies, I would just say, research into, other cultures, what they find is what creates longevity in life is actually not caloric restriction. Certainly you need to watch the types of food you eat, but actually is a time restriction on how you eat. We don't graze. People who graze all day actually are setting themselves up for a shorter lifespan, and that's something we've been taught. Eat 3 meals a day. Eat 6 small meals a day. Space your have fewer smaller meals throughout the day instead of 3 big meals.
Okay, I'm confused. What you're saying is that is not right. Is that right?
I'm saying that's not right.
Okay.
And that's what I learned when I was in my 20s. All the stuff that I read said, you know what, you should, instead of eating 3 meals a day, eat 5 or 6 meals a day. Make them smaller.
Yeah.
Of course, who's going to eat a small meal? But what they're finding is if you maybe skip breakfast and eat later in the morning, and maybe you just have like a midday snack after that, and then have a nice big healthy dinner, and then stop eating, that you've eaten within an 8 to 10 hour window instead of within a 14-hour window, that time where you're not eating, it allows your body to process everything that it's taken in. It allows it to break down the glycogen stores.
Now, I can tell you, and I can talk about me personally, and that is that I generally have a nice healthy breakfast. And, I'll have either a cereal or I'll have some, well, when I say healthy, I'll eat bacon and eggs, maybe some hash browns. I eat. But I'll have something very small, for lunch if I have anything sometimes. And if I'm hungry, I might eat a handful of nuts or something. But I generally lock my mouth shut about 3:00 in the afternoon. And the truth is I'll have dinners if we have a social event or somebody over for dinner on a weekend, or as a matter of fact, Saturdays and Sundays I cheat. I'll eat, because I want to have something nice with my wife Marlene, right? Or we'll go out to a restaurant or something like that. But generally what I find is that, over that weekend when I'm cheating, I do see some weight gain as a result of that. I don't get nothing big, but I do see some weight gain as a result of that. It's almost like my body wants that time from 3:00 until 6 or 7 o'clock the next morning to process what I put inside there.
And that's, so you're saying you don't eat, you skip dinner on a regular basis?
Oh yeah, I generally don't have a dinner.
Okay, and see, that's exactly what I was talking about. I just made it backwards. Instead of skipping dinner, I was talking about skipping breakfast. It doesn't matter. The point is you want to have a long interval between your last meal of the day and the first meal of the next day. So whether you skip dinner or skip breakfast, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Think of the term breakfast. It is break fast. You're breaking your fast.
Right.
And so the whole point is that we've been fasting for a period of time, and they actually call it intermittent fasting. And then you do another aspect that they also include on that is very healthy. And they say you should have 1 day a week where you have a feast day. Mm-hmm. Where because you don't want your body to get in the habit of fasting every single day, and now it starts to go, okay, I'm not getting enough calories, and it goes into starvation mode and starts storing fat.
Yeah.
So you give it 1 day where you're eating a few extra meal, eating an extra meal or a few extra calories, you're kind of feasting, and then the body goes, oh, okay, I've got plenty of food available, I don't need to go into starvation mode. And so it keeps burning fat for energy, and it keeps depleting its glycogen stores throughout the week when you're taking. So you are literally doing exactly what the research is more and more finding out is the healthiest way to live, and that is to eat within about an 8-hour window during the day, and then have a 16-hour window where you don't eat anything at all.
Yeah.
And those are the people who are the healthiest. They have the most energy, and they live the longest because your body doesn't have to constantly. Digestion is a intense process, and it takes a lot of energy. And the worst thing you can do is eat right before bed, because you're supposed to be sleeping and your body's supposed to be recovering and restoring. And if you've got to be digesting food at the same time, it will actually drain you. It's actually wearing you out.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
What you're doing is perfect.
Yeah, it's interesting you'd say that, because you know what? If I do go out for some social event, or I do something like that, and I come home and I'm full, I'm uncomfortable, I don't sleep well as a result of that. And I don't, there's no question that what you're saying is valid, because when you go to bed, I'm not saying you need to go to bed hungry, but you don't want to go to bed full. That's for darn sure.
No, you don't. Yeah, obviously you don't go to bed hungry, but also, hunger is one of those things that we confuse cravings for hunger. If you're a person who's used to eating a lot of carbohydrates all day long, you're snacking on this and you're snacking on that, and all of a sudden you stop. Let's say you let's say you're doing it the way you are, where you skip dinner. Well, by the time you go to bed, you're going to get these cravings that are going to kick in, and you're going to confuse them with hunger. You're not truly hungry, but you have cravings. And until you overcome that to where your body doesn't need that sugar anymore, to where it can burn fat for energy, because when you have access to burning fat for energy in your body, you don't ever have those lulls in energy.
Yeah, but every once in a while, Sean, you just have to have a banana split with the sliced walnut stuff. Anyway, we got to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about what is and what isn't healthy, and sort of the things, the falsities that you hear about that you really should be paying attention to, something that will make you healthier. We'll be right back after these brief messages.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live, and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses: website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful in visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make The Interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios, Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Gentle Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
Holy cow. Hey, I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4:23 p.m. Pacific time. Finally, the temperature's going down. It's 87 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. It's on its way to 57 degrees. And if you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in Madrid, Spain, it's 39 degrees and clear. And if you're in Tokyo, Japan, well, 48 degrees with some light rain. But I'll tell you what, no rain on the heads of anybody here in Southern California. That would include myself and our own Sean Lefebvre in his Geared for Wellness Corner. Hey, Sean, I forgot what the heck we were talking about. I think it was controversy about diet.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about how to eat and how not to eat and exercise and yeah, you are doing. It's funny, intuitively, you're doing what most healthy cultures in the world do intuitively as well, but now we're having to teach people to do it because we've been teaching the wrong thing. Like the whole low fat.
Do we just get into bad habits? Is that what happens?
Yeah, well, we've gotten into bad habits, but we've also gotten into bad science. And it started. And honestly, you and I have said this a million times on this show. It always goes back to one thing, and that is follow the money trail. Yeah. Back when Senator McGovern was in charge, was this back in the 60s of creating the new dietary guidelines. One of the things that he came out with, based on studies that really are not real good studies because the science behind them is horrible, he was going to, in a good conscience, say, you need to eat a lower fat diet. And so one of the things he came out with was eat less fatty cuts of meat. All right. Which, is, in my opinion, not good health advice, but according to the science, the junk science back then, it was a logical thing to tell people. But what happened, the backlash that he got, and he was from, I think, South Dakota, where there's a ton of ranchers out there, they basically said, you are going to change the wording of your guidelines or you will never be a senator again. And so he did. He changed it from eat less fatty cuts of meat to eat more lean cuts of meat. And so, so it kind of almost sounds like the same thing because you want to eat the lean cuts and not the fatty cuts. But the first one actually had the words eat less. And the second one had the words eat more. Yeah. And so, it really does. People would just eat more. They would go, I need to eat more. They didn't say replace it with something or take this out or substitute. It just said eat more. So they just threw in an extra piece of meat. And so we've got, everything from, people, that are bought and sold by Monsanto that are basically pushing through, even Obama, signed the they call the DARK Act, basically saying that we can't even talk about GMOs on labeling, on food labeling. There's a ton of people out there who are trying to say, if it's GMO, it needs to be labeled GMO. But the DARK Act that Obama passed basically said that you can't even put on there that it's non-GMO. There can't be any discussion of GMO. They're trying to make it to where, the GMO, the Monsanto and anyone else in the GMO industry, all your major food manufacturers are saying, look, if we put GMO on here, it's gonna, people are gonna have a negative connotation with that, and we're not gonna be able to sell food. So
what the hell was his definition of transparency? I'm not sure what transparency means now.
His transparency was a brick wall. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. So it's just you follow the money trail, and we've you and I talked about this before, how the sugar industry drove the junk science that said the fat in your diet is the problem, and people were replacing fats. Like, I had an argument with a friend of mine, and he just wouldn't listen. We were talking about eating low-fat butter or low-fat peanut butter. And basically what they did was they took the peanut, they ground it up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know how like natural peanut butter is, if you let it settle, the oil goes to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you can't, you got to mix it back in, or it's like paste. It's not really good. But what they would do is they would dump the oil out, and they would replace that with high fructose corn syrup, and then mix it back in, and that made it a little bit sweeter. It gave it that nice smooth texture, and it tasted absolutely wonderful. And we also got the added, quote unquote benefit of it being low fat. And, I had the argument with him. I said, this is horrible for you. It's high fructose corn syrup, which is just sugar, and your body doesn't, unless you're out, in the middle of a soccer game, running around for an hour and a half straight, you don't need this much sugar. You're better off with the fat, because the fat will give you a slow burning, fuel for your body, and it's a lot healthier for you. And he's like, no, the sugar it's much better, without the fat. The fat is, because fat makes you fat. And I really, I think even at the time, I didn't, my science wasn't solid enough. This was 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And my science wasn't solid enough that I could really argue effectively. And plus this guy that I was having arguments with, he's one of these guys that once he's got his mind made up, you're not going to convince him anyway.
Sure.
But, so we have these junk studies out there that say, low fat is bad. Well, we know that low fat is not bad, that good fats, I can remember having an argument with someone about his buddy. I don't know, somebody that had a heart attack or whatever, and the doctor told him to stay away from coconut oil. And I went, coconut oil? What a stupid recommendation! It's so good for you. Well, it's got saturated fat.
Yeah, but it's not good for me. It'll kill me.
Well, you're allergic to it, then I'm assuming. Yeah. That's different. But for the average person, man, coconut oil is one of the best things you can do for your heart. But because the doctor just automatically goes, we need low fat, saturated fats are bad, coconut has saturated fat in it, and so don't eat coconut oil.
Hey, Sean, let me just interrupt you for a minute. Can you explain the difference between fats, saturated fats, and the other kind of fats? Can you do that real quick?
I'm not really good at explaining.
Oh, okay.
You got, basically a saturated, and as far as the chemical makeup, there's a composition that has to do with, the different chains, I guess.
Well, does some come from grain and other comes from nuts or?
No. Basically, a saturated fat is a fat that will solidify, like animal fat, coconut, oil at room temperature. It's a solid. That's what a saturated fat is. That's the easiest definition.
It dissolves with heat.
Yeah, and then it melts with heat. You can render animal fat down.
Lard.
Coconut, doesn't take much. You heat it up, you put it in a container and stick it in your car at 110 degrees, and it's going to turn into a liquid. So, so even butter, again, is another fat that is a saturated fat. So saturated, just means basically that it solidifies at room temperature. And you've got unsaturated, polyunsaturated. The polyunsaturated, just there's multiple chains of bonds together, so it's a little bit different the way your body metabolizes it. But yeah, you either have saturated, which is solid at room temperature, or unsaturated fat, which is not. It's a liquid.
I didn't mean to throw a wrench at you.
No, it's a legitimate question, and I should probably be able to just roll that one right off the tongue. But it's just something that I just don't think about very much. The thing that I could probably explain better is, what is hydrogenated oil? Because I've studied that one, I've looked at it. And hydrogenated oil is literally they take hydrogen and they pass it through the oil, and that actually turns it into a thicker consistency. So where like Crisco. Crisco is a hydrogenated oil, and it fattens up. It's a vegetable oil that can now be solid at a room temperature. So hydrogenation gives the fat a different texture. But the saturated fat does not mean it comes from an animal or a plant. Those animals and plants produce saturated fat. Primarily, most people get their saturated fat from meat and dairy and so on. And saturated fat is healthy for you.
So Sean,
the first part of our diet when we're babies is is breast milk. It's all saturated fat and cholesterol.
Yeah. So, Sean, if in your diet you're trying to stay away from GMOs, but you're eating things in moderation, I'm guessing that your body is made up in such a way that you can just about eat anything you want as long as you're doing it properly, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you say anything you want, as far as like, obviously anything.
You can have a steak once in a while. You can have French fries once in a while. You can have butter once in a while. You can have milk once in a while.
Can have butter all the time. I mean, butter, if it comes from the right source, you can have it every day.
Yeah.
It's not bad for you. The things that we consider treats are things that are processed.
Yeah, because you hear that a baked potato is good for you. It's the butter that'll kill you. That's what you hear.
Well, that's what you hear, but it's actually exactly the opposite. It's the potato is actually because the potato, especially a white potato, it's so high on the glycemic index that it's almost, it's not quite as bad as eating sugar, but it metabolizes real quickly. And unfortunately, potatoes nowadays, they spray them with pesticides so much that they're actually in the Environmental Watch Group puts them in their dirty dozen list now. They're actually one of the dirtiest vegetables out there.
So when you say now you're saying they spray them with insecticide, that's different than saying that they're subject to GMOs, right? It's bad, but it's different, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's you've got a chemical on it. You can have a non-GMO that you still spray pesticides on. Mm-hmm. The point of making most GMOs is so that they call them Roundup Ready, is so that you can spray them with these pesticides, and the pesticide doesn't affect the life of the plant. It doesn't hurt the plant.
And I'm guessing, Sean, that when they're spraying the pesticides and stuff like that on plants and crops and things, and they pick those plants and crops, they don't really wash that. And if they do, they can't wash off those pesticides anyway, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. They don't wash it. And even if you do wash it, it's not all going to come off. It soaks into, like I said, a potato is underground. Mm-hmm. So they're not spraying it on the potato. They're spraying it on the potato plant. And then they pull that, so that gets absorbed into the plant and pulled down into the root. And so now they're saying that, even potatoes, because they spray them so heavily, are filled with pesticides. They're terribly, terribly unhealthy for you in that sense. But even if it's a organic potato, it's still going to metabolize a lot quicker. So if you're a person who's diabetic, I would say stay away from potatoes. You'd be better off with a sweet potato. A sweet potato is lower on the glycemic index, and the glycemic index is basically just an index that tells you how fast something metabolizes in your body. So
that's interesting, because you wouldn't think that a sweet potato would be better for you than the other one, because of how sweet it is,
Exactly, because it's sweet. It's called sweet, yeah. but the chemical structure of it makes it to where our body and the fiber in it as well makes it to where it actually metabolizes at a slower rate. So you won't get as much of a spike of insulin eating a sweet potato as you would a regular potato. And oh my gosh, mashed sweet potatoes are awesome. Mm. Have you ever made mashed potatoes using sweet potatoes?
I'm not a big sweet potato fan. I'll eat them. Marlene loves them, and she makes a wonderful one. My son-in-law loves them. The whole family loves them. I've just never been crazy about them. And as a matter of fact, when I was growing up, my sister, my mom, my dad, my brother, they all loved them. I was the only one that had an aversion to it. I didn't like it.
I love them. I think sweet potato hash browns are...
Well, now I'm old. I'll eat anything as long as it doesn't move before I put it in my mouth.
You anything what?
I say now I'm old. I'll eat anything as long as it doesn't move before I put it in my mouth.
As long as it doesn't try to run away while you're stabbing it with the fork.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want it to talk to me before I stab it.
Yeah, if I can look it in the eye just before I eat it, then no, not gonna happen.
Well, my friend, guess what time it is?
It's time for us to move on to the next segment, which does not include Sean LaFave.
Well, you know what? What a disappointment. This hour with you there must be something wrong with the clocks or something.
I know they seem to turn into windmills all of a sudden when we get on the air.
So what has my good buddy got planned for this weekend?
I'm probably going to be doing a lot of packing. I'm looking at going back to Kansas now.
Oh man! Yeah, well, that does mean that you got to stop by here on your way, right?
Of course it does. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go. I think I'm going to leave here, and I'll come see you. We can have breakfast, and then I can go to. I think I'm going to stop in Flagstaff for a couple of days on my way back.
Oh, if you're going to stop by and see me for breakfast, the least I could do is make you something really healthy like Eggs Benedict.
Oh, I love Eggs Benedict.
Oh, I make a great Eggs Benedict.
All right, well, I'll drive through rush hour traffic for your Eggs Benedict. That sounds perfect.
Well, no, we'll just do we'll do a late breakfast.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, my friend. Listen, stay safe, stay happy. Make everybody around you glad that they are, will you?
All right, same to you. Thank you, sir. I had a fun time. I'll talk to you Tuesday.
As usual, just a magnificent show. The rest of you folks, stick around, because when we come back, we're going to be talking about the birthdays for the day, the secret daily teaching for your life, the Harvard business tip of the day, and interesting but useless facts. We're going to give you all of that stuff right after this.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchased high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4:42 p.m. Pacific time, finally going down 87 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. If you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you happen to be in Sydney, Australia, well, it's 68 degrees, it's scattered clouds, and it's tomorrow morning at 11:42. If you're in Auckland, New Zealand, it's 70 degrees and mostly cloudy. If you're in either place, you're in a wonderful place. Well, time for me to talk about the Harvard business tip of the day. The management tip today is take on uncomfortable tasks to help you grow. There are things at work that make us want to hide under our desks. Perhaps you'd rather swallow nails than make small talk with strangers at a networking event. Or maybe the idea of speaking in public makes you break into a cold sweat. But the reality is that even if you find these tasks unpleasant, they're necessary to growing in your career. You have to get out of your comfort zone, so start with small steps. Instead of giving a talk at an industry event, sign up for a public speech class. Instead of speaking up in the boardroom in front of your senior colleagues, start by doing it in smaller meetings with peers to see how it feels. You may stumble, but that's okay. In fact, it's the only way you'll learn, especially if you can appreciate that missteps are an inevitable and, in fact, essential part of the learning process. And that's just the way it goes. And you know what? And not just in business, but in your personal life as well. Now, time for us to talk about the secret daily teachings for your lifestyle tip for the day. And basically, it's all about a positive mental attitude. You've heard me talk about it every day, so I'm not going to go through that litany with you. Just know that you control everything. Now, the lesson for today is that time is just an illusion. Now, Einstein told us that if this is the first time that you've ever heard it, you may find it hard to concept, to get your head all around this thing, because you see everything happening, one thing after the other. What quantum physicists and Einstein tell us is that everything is happening simultaneously. If you can understand that there is no time and accept that concept, then you'll see that whatever you want in the future already exists. If everything is happening at the one time, then the parallel version of you with what you want, it already exists. You just got to make it happen. Well, you know what today is? Absolutely. Today is Thursday, November the 10th, and it is somebody's birthday. Yes, sir. And we've got some terrific birthdays for you today. So you know what? We might as well just get right to them. Right off the top here, a fellow born in 1924, TV and film actor, best known as the Professor on the sitcom Gilligan's Island. Happy birthday, Russell Johnson. And here's a guy. He was a stand-up comedian and actor. He became well-known in the late 1980s and 1990s, appearing on several television series and starring in the family-friendly films House Guest, First Kid, and Jingle All the Way. Happy birthday, Sinbad. And finally, born on November the 10th in 1980, a professional basketball player, formerly of the NBA's Memphis Grizzlies. Happy birthday, Troy Bell. Well, I know you've been wondering what was going on today in history. I'm about to tell you, so sit back and enjoy it. On November the 10th, 1951, get this, really not that long ago, direct dial coast-to-coast telephone service begins in the United States. No, that's not so long, 66 years ago. How about this? In 1969, National Educational Television, the predecessor to the public broadcasting service in the United States, debuts the children's television program Sesame Street. How many of your kids were educated on Sesame Street? And then finally, in 1997, WorldCom and MCI Communications announced a $37 billion merger, the largest merger in U.S. history at that time. Well, the quote for today comes from Bill Nye, and Bill Nye says that the more you find out about the world, the more opportunities there are to laugh at it. Now, that, my friends, is an absolute fact. Now, time for us to talk about some interesting but useless facts, and we got a couple minutes to do that with, so let's do it. Did you know that every night wasps bite into the stem of a plant, lock their mandibles, or their jaws, into position, stretch out at right angles to the stem, and with legs dangling, fall asleep? Now, that actually is quite interesting if you think about it. I thought they went up into a nest. I didn't know that. How about this? You know that the first Parisian cafe opened in 1689 to serve coffee. It was a coffee house. Yeah. And the 100 billionth crayon made by Crayola was periwinkle blue. The 100 billionth. Yeah, you heard me. Did you know that Kitsap County, Washington, was originally called Slaughter County? Nicely. The first hotel there was called the Slaughterhouse. Gosh, that's sad. Well, let me leave you with this one. In December 1997, the state of Nevada, USA, became the very first state to pass legislation categorizing Y2K data disasters as acts of God, protecting the state from lawsuits that may potentially be brought against it by residents in the year 2000. And that is our interesting but useless fact for today. Now, don't go away, because when we come back, we're going to talk about the a tribute that we're going to do to the great late Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. And as I told you, today's story is going to be the eulogy for an owl. You're going to like this, so don't go away.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful and visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make The Interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios, Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Gentle Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.